Aloha. I think I'm going to do one more uh, segment here. I should go to bed. This is my bedtime, but maybe I'll satiate myself and then not feel um, the urge to do a few of these for a couple days again. Binge and purge, feast and famine. Limitless. Bradley Cooper seems like a nice enough guy. It's good to be king. Look at some of these women he's been hanging out with. Good to be king is a reference to history of the world. I wonder about De Niro. You talk about Hollywood having a good side and a bad side, or a dark side, and then you do the links of Bradley Cooper working with De Niro, and then you're like, maybe Bradley Cooper. So his life changed in 2004. He got off the drugs. He lost his dad, and it changes you. And so he is connected more with his mom. The idea that this movie is similar to the movie that Johansson was in. So one of them copied the idea. And Johansson, she just disappeared when she got to 100%. And it was a synthetic drug that activated the brain. Same kind of idea here. It was called NZT-48. But at the end, he learned how to activate his brain without the drug. And that's a really interesting idea. They wanted to study Einstein's brain. You look at Einstein as a word. We have Ein, which is Ayin, which could mean well, like water well. Could actually mean I. And then we have ST, and then we have Ayin again. And so this ST, if it's forward or backwards, could be ts or ST, because ts, remember, Hebrew was read from left to right, right to left at the beginning. There's no clear knowledge of what was going on. And so they donated his brain so people could study it, but they never got the brain back. And Galileo, before he died, he had outsourced his body parts, and there's a few fingers of his on display in Padua, or Firenze. I think it's Firenze, because I went there and there was this big line. I was like, wow, people are interested in physics and science. This is awesome. But they were in line for David in the museum. Around the corner is a science museum. There's a few people there. There's no line. There's a few people inside. And Galileo sold his body parts at his death. He didn't technically have children. I think he had 3 children with a woman, but they weren't proper issue. So why does he need money when he's on his deathbed? But there was something about that, They wanted to collect Einstein's brain. They wanted to... Oh, so I should add that to the list. Have we ever done a DNA sample of Einstein? And what about all these giant mounds in America? And specifically, Joseph Times and Seasons mentions the mummies found in the caves of Lexington, Kentucky. Whatever happened to those remains? So, anyway, the idea of limitless, Genesis 11:6, they could do all things they imagined. I don't think that's what it actually says. But we are unbound. Remember 3rd Nephi. The angels ministered unto the children, and they spoke things that we can't describe. The ability to resurrect. That's something that's happened before and will happen, and it has to be learned. Some people will be so good at it, they'll twinkle in an eye. Some people it might take thousands of years. Do we not have that in the mythologies? In the Hindi Tamil Gangle stories, people will be in hell for different amounts of time depending on how they live their lives. I don't know that it's like that. I think it might just be you got to learn how to do it. You're going to be in limbo if you don't learn how to go limitless. And so it should be an objective. Did Yeshua go limitless? So in the previous video, I was talking about the issue of Abraham, and I don't know that I was reading it correctly, but it's definitely there. For when Melchizedek met Abraham, Levi was still in the loin of his ancestor. So that means before Levi was born, he was in the scrotum as semen of Abraham. So they had some understanding of that. I don't know if they understood all the way down to semen and how small that was. But that's an interesting thought. How much life experience did Abraham's children have before they actually became children, like physical children? And so, this thought of reincarnation, or this idea that, these words sound familiar, these languages sound familiar, it could be because they are familiar. It's a very interesting idea. And so thou art a priest. So let me read this based on what I understand. Garen eti en ho osus pater hote Melchizedek sinatao autos. No idea if that's anywhere near correct. So what I do is I looked up this word in the Septuagint. So where did it appear in the Old Testament? And sackcloth upon his loins. So this is this word. I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. That one seems pretty interesting. And so what I did is I grabbed that and I just
גבוי וובה. גבוי וובה.
and this one translates something about a cow, which is kind of interesting instead of what it was. And if you look at what it was, it may mean demon, and it's Shaddai. Shaddai is supposed to be a holy name of God that may mean demon or devil. So this is the idea of mixing language. So are you saying devil when you say Shaddai? And so let's listen to this.
ויאמר לו אלוהים אני אל שדי פרה ורבה גבוי. וקהל גבויים יהיה ממך ומלכים מחלציך יצאו.
This is what we should be doing, is focusing on the transliteration of sound and come up with spoken language is spoken. It's sounds. There's only so many sounds. There's only so many orders in that sound. So why is that interesting to me? So we have va, which means and. The verb is amar, which means is it to speak or is that dabar? So amar is to say, dabar is to say, proclaim, announce. There's not a lot of clarity there. And the order is important. So it starts with, and said, God Elohim plural, and said. So that's not being repeated twice, is it? No. And said, lo is next. So I want to read it in the actual order. Lo is supposed to mean the word no. How can lo mean unto him and lo at the same time? Lo could mean not. So that would say, and said not. And someone would say, well, it can't be that because whatever rules they've created for their Hebrew language. Well, how can lo mean to him or not or no, the negation? Lo and behold. That's the common definition of lo. Here it's supposed to be an object of a preposition. It's in Spanish, lo. And so if it means unto him, those two should be separated in the original Masoretic, should they not? And when we're studying this, if we think it means unto him, we should separate them. Lo. And to me, this va and this look the same, but I'm pretty sure that's not the, I think it might be, it just might be its location. Okay. Ani, Anoki, is the long form of that, so ani is a contraction. Don't use acronyms, don't use contractions. Ani, Ani, Anoki, Anakin, Anunnaki, El. So why would you say Elohim and El in the same? And this one's singular and Elohim's plural. And God, super gods, plural God, said unto him, I am God Almighty, El Shaddai. One of these translations was the cow. Shaddai. I don't see cow there.
Shaddai.
And God told him, I am the God of the cow and the goy. So goy is goyim. Generally it means non-Hebrew, but it just means nation, generally. Goyim is the plural. Im means nations, plural. So what caught my attention is this. Para. Pararaba. That sounds very South American. Paraná, Paraguay, Paraba. And it's not actually the Raba here. There's an Urba here, and then there's a Goy sound and an Ur. And now Goyim. So I wanted to listen to what that sounded like. Goyim Yihe Mimeka. Mimeka. Yihe Mimeka. So this could be a completely wrong translation of what was being said. Could be correct. I'm looking for where it came from. Genesis was written late. You know, we should think Genesis 1 is this great poetry because it's the first language, but it was written last. The best language is Isaiah, Proverbs, Psalms, Job, Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon, Lakim. So now I'm looking for Guayhana, which is a South American word, and I have Goyhayamin, and I'm looking for Paraguay, or something like that, and I have Parube Goy. And that's what part of this was.
גבוי ורבה.
And let me put the para in front of it. Okay, in front. This is going to work. The left to right thing messes you up.
גבוי ורבה.
They don't know what the meaning of Paraguay is. In an old map, it was Paraguay or Paraguay, so qua or gua, and they said one was the vulgar language, the common language. Qua, gua. Latin aqua is water. Spanish agua is water. Did Spanish adopt agua after going to America? So how did America influence the Spanish language? So this might be Paraguay.
גבוי ורבה.
Payaguas, there's lots of different versions. You've got Paraná, Pirana. This par sound is very common. Par, fruitful. This might be fruitful land. It's not bountiful. Fruitful is not bountiful. Bountiful means free. Fruitful means fruitful. And the kings Umlakim Yeshua, that looks like Yeshua to me. Maleseka, and again I'm just guessing on some of that. Luz, that means light to me. When I see it, that's what I think. Under an oak, to be buried under a tree. Paranram, we have Paran, which is a location. It was probably a fruitful location. It looks very deserty today. But it probably means fruitful. Paraná. So they're saying it means place of caverns. And I just found a para word that meant fruitful. Why would I think that it means a place of caverns? The grove of Paran, grove, forest. So that they have this idea that you have a garden first, and then you have a forest. Carmel is garden. Lebanon was the forest. They're next to each other. I believe a forest is more fruitful, has more paran, than the gardens, the Carmels. So if you want to restore a language, there's only so many sounds.
ויאמר לו אלוהים אני אל שדאי פרה ורבה גבוי.
I hear a lot of V's and a lot of L's. I think Hawaiian and Tongan there. I don't speak either of those languages. This one translated just about right.
וקהל גבויים יהיה ממך ומלכים מחלציך יצאו.
A multitude or crowd of nations shall be from you, and the kings of thy loins shall come out of thee. Shaddai may mean demon, El Shaddai. I wouldn't use that word when you're referencing God, unless you think he's both. So Yeshua went up to a mountain. We're hungry. So he says something about bread. I think there's an entendre with bread. I think mormon means living water and bread of life. Remember, mana, what we call manna, is man. So mormon could be this mythical eternal life water, and mormon or mormon could be good bread or bread of life. And so he may have done a word play by slightly changing what we had. Oh, reverse it in line, isn't it? De Jesus, epin, autois, ego, emi, am, ho artos, zoes, Zeus, it sounds like to me. Artos, zoes, ho ekromenos, pros, meaume, meaume. Even in that language, that flows nice, and it's probably mauma in the Hebrew, or possibly, I don't know. This is me just winging it. Eme. So we have eme, but me means never. How can me mean me and never at the same time? Pote. So I've done Greek and Latin roots in like 8th grade in school, so some of this isn't fearful for me, but let's look at bread. Artos. They're talking about cake. I think of Jeremiah, the queen of heaven. They're debating, should we continue to make cakes for the queen of heaven? It's probably a coffee-like cake. They probably knew about coffee beans. It wasn't invented in 800 AD because that's what the internet says and historians say. Well, in written history, this was the first story of how it was used and came about. Okay. So these are the stories. If you be the Son of God, command these stones be made into bread. Okay. Give us this day our daily bread, the Lord's Prayer. So let's now look at it in the Old Testament. Was it ever used in the Old Testament? Thou shalt eat thy bread. This is pre-manna days. Sweat of the brow. Sweat is one of the primary words of language. Zea. So if I were to go to this page, the original symbol for the Z is Zea. Look at it. Equal sign, approximately equal, sweat of the brow. Doesn't change over time. It's kind of always the same thing. I need to start using this more. So the problem with the one I have been using is it doesn't show all these extra things. Bay, in the beginning starts with bay. I think it's supposed to be Abeshet. Abe Zeat. Pekka. I'm pretty sure that's Pekka, not F. Tokal. So they're using lachem, or yeah. And there's no change there. So they're not using manna, they're using lev, which means bread, I think, in Russian. Shubka, shub, and then you got this ka. Is the ka taking the sh? So that's common in some South American languages. Is you put the you put the literal root, and then you put the change. That's very similar to South American languages. So unto is Ael. I thought Ael was God. And so those two letters have multiple meanings. So the translation may be wrong sometimes. Sometimes this could sometimes be Allah, which means to go up to the ground. So Adam, that's supposed to be Adam, red, ruddy. The first man was Adam. Adama, what does the at the end of Adam mean? And then you've got this high. I thought high, the H was a preposition. So I'm saying it could be something about God and the ground here. Ki mini, ki mina, mina, men, men. There's a stem of men. Meme. This little dot means the M goes with both sides. Because of the dot, you hold the M a long time. So I think that would make sense. If it's hard to write on metal plates, you would want to find some way to repeat a letter that's right next to itself, even if it's in a different word. So these, in this case, are supposed to be different words. Was thou taken lucata, ki apar? This one's apar or afar. So there's got to be a way to easily denote that. There was probably an F letter that got lost. Ata, vael afar apar, whatever that is, tasub. It ends with a B. It started with a B. So were these B's markers that I've finished an idea? Beginning of an idea, end of an idea. I don't know. So I remember Joseph Smith was given the participation trophy with the Hebrew language when he was studying it, and Orson Pratt was actually given a certificate because he was really good. And that was because Orson Pratt listened to the teacher. I listened in school to the teacher most of the time. I got really good grades, but it was always kind of A minus because I wouldn't listen to the teacher. I would just go and learn my own stuff. And I think that's what Joseph was trying to do. So he came up with Nolam. It was right there, and there's two words. He just put them together in Isaiah. Melchizedek brought forth bread. So this is generic. It doesn't mean bread. It means food. And that's that word, lechem. And notice there's no variation. Look at this yain, wine. But it's va and wine. Va is supposed to be and. But and wine together, that's a palindrome. It's the same forward and backwards. Umaki, Sedek, Melek, Shalem, Shalom, Hosi, Chlachem, Vaim, Vahu, that sounds very Tongan to me. Kochen, the priests. Oh, look, another palindrome. La'el, La'el, of God. La'i, La'iyalel, he is now part of God. So it's La'el, Elohim, Elyon, most high. So what's more high? Is Elohim more high and Elyon is most high? When you have comparatives, you have big, bigger, biggest. What's the common paradigm of a thing, more a thing, most a thing in all these languages? That would be some easy marker to anchor to. And so we're looking for bread. So let's see if there's one post Exodus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go to Isaiah, because Isaiah is the Shakespeare of his day. You could argue, I could go back one from where I am and argue that Psalms and Proverbs and stuff fit up there. Job's pretty good. My tears have been my meat night and day. That's going to be the generic food. Nair, the young man. Hi, Nair Gam. So Gam means and here. Sometimes et is supposed to mean and or with. So Nair Zakem, lo. This lo is valo. This has an e at the end, ra'i. So this is the not lo, the negation. Ra'a, to see, but it's ra'i. Zera, there's Zarahemla. So now we have z. Is that a va? And they're using lakam. Gliv, I think it's Russian for. So let's do reverse in line. Zakanti, I am old. Valo. Raiti. Raiti. Sadiq. Nezav. Ne'ezav. Or is that Ne'ezav? And so that's a va. So I thought va was and. I have been young, and now I am old. Lo, righty, I've beheld and seen righteous. Righteous and Zaro, begging bread. And so for me, this n here, niet, no, that to me sounds like negation. So it's azab. And just imagine if it's in the wrong place, it might mean not forsaken. The meaning might be completely opposite of what we're currently reading. So I think Songs of Solomon's actually an intended cast thy bread upon the water. That would be a good one. Might actually be an encrypted, some encrypted messages. What a beautiful verse this is. Shala, Lakmaka, Pain, Al, Pane. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Strong's H 6440. Panem. Panem. Gesenius Lexicon. Penuel. Penuel. Second entry. Peniel. Peniel.
Panama, upon the waters. Remember, the Darien Gap is there. I'm pretty sure the Darien Gap's been there a long time. It's pretty impassable. If you don't have boats to go around it, you're not traveling through that area. It casts thy bread upon the waters. So it's that same word. So we're getting that same word. We're not getting manna ever in the Greek Septuagint. Oh, we got a Songs of Solomon. Bati. Ba. Ah. There's a vowel. Oh, they don't have vowels. Bati. Legoni. Legoni. Legani. Garden. Garden. Gone. Gani. Guanaja. Guanaja. The garden. So there's an Isaiah scripture that explains that you go from desolate to a garden to a forest. That's the evolution of fruitfulness. Aoti, aoti. Remember the T sound, the T addition in Egyptian makes it feminine. So would Aoi be my brother? And I'm not going to look that up right now, but I'm just... Kala spells Ariti, Ariti, Mori, Mori, my mirror. So this E is matching. My sister. So remember, sometimes when they have plurals, it's called subject-verb agreement sometimes, or either article agreement, like el agua, las aguas. El in that case is an exception because you can't say la agua. It's actually la agua. But la is hard to say, so you say el agua. It's an exception to the rule. El hombre, la hembra. Im. So im. So we have moriim. Moriim. Masami, my spice. Alkati is supposed to be eaten. Remember, we've had a lot of these T sounds. Yari. Im. Dipsi. Shatiti. Titikata. Titikaka. Lake Titicaca. Drink. Kaka. Drink. Big lake. Ka in Guarani is supposed to mean mountains or to go up. I think I found it in Hebrew to go up, like to ascend. Kaka would be to go up and go up, to drink. Titicaca. Yeni, my wine. Wasn't my wine? Oh, that was and wine. It was a little bit different. It's very similar because it reminded me of that palindrome. Eam, with. So we had two withs here. My milk. Milk was mer. Or milkman was mer. That's one of the choices in Hebrew. Eat, or in Egyptian. Re'im, re'im. Re means laugh to me. Sutu, drink. Visutu, drink a lot. So there's a double word there. You see it? So for whatever reason, when they do these double words, they shift some of the language. Dodim, and again, this ends with that. I think that's supposed to be shalom or something at the end. Sometimes it appears in the Old Testament or in Psalms that way. So why is that dropped? Remember, milk before meat is meat. Meat or bread or just food. He's talking about myrrh and honey and spice and milk in the same verse. I've had this idea that milk and honey is about myrrh and frankincense because frankincense means white and may come out of the tree faster. So this is a good one. So I wonder if this is a revelation tied to Nephi, or if it's tied to the crucifixion somehow. Ziku Sheba, the Queen of Sheba, 7. The God oath, or the oath of the earth. Nashim, women. Manasseh. Beis, 1. Inde, Haku, Lemor, Lamenu, our own bread. Lamen, Lakman. Laman, and is this Lemuel right there? Okay. And our own apparel. Jikada, Shimka. The ka sounds very Russian. Lashadka, little horse. Ribka, little fish. Esop. Herpetanu, do they have herpes? Lakmenu. Lemor. So I'm not saying I've arrived anywhere. All I'm saying is this is the process. So this one's a good one. This this one I definitely think is part of the story of Nephi. I think he realized this later. Tama's east of Shazer, of where they were, and it was a Jewish settlement. And I think at some point they rescued the family. And so imagine you read this and you're like, oh my goodness, this is about us. Nadad, Ben Nadi, Nadi. There's a play on words here. To retreat, flee, depart, move, wander about, stray, flutter. To be chased away, to flee, Nadad. So anytime I read an Isaiah scripture, I first think, is this telling the story of Nephi? And then my second thing, is this telling of the crucifixion? For they fled from the swords, from the drawn sword. Did the drunk Laban pull a sword on him? Because remember, he tried to kill him before. He was out riding all day on horses with his captain of 50 looking for him. And from the bent bow. Was this like an action movie when it was happening? You got to remember, it could have been when the Egyptians placed, with the timing, placed the one younger son. So you got this battle. You got elites in Jerusalem. Some are linked to Babylon and Syria, Assyria to the north, let's just say to the north. Some to Egypt to the south. Josiah went out and attacked an Egyptian army, and the Egyptian army, Neku or whatever his name was like, dude, what are you doing? We're going up to kill them. So that tells you Josiah and his little consort of people were in cahoots with the north, with the Babylonians, likely. And then, remember, Josiah had 2 wives, so he had kind of 2 camps. The other camp was tied to Egypt. So after he dies, the Egyptian prince continues up to fight. He loses the battle, so he's pissed. He comes back, he goes into the city of Jerusalem, and he puts this other family on the throne as king, who was on the throne for like 3 months or 6 months. So that could have been going on when Nephi's doing his thing. And that would be pretty cool. And then all the antis are like, well, how do you kill someone without having them bleed everywhere? I didn't ever watch them, but did you watch ISIL? For some reason, Barack Obama wanted us to call them ISIS. But ISIL, they would behead men. And so, was this an action movie? All their rulers are fled together, they are bound by the archers, all them found are bound together, which have fled afar. All the noise of the tumult of the people fled, at the lifting up of the nations were scattered. There's a verse here that talks about water so loud. Well, I think it was water so loud that it sounded like a great war. And I think that was the gift of Lai to the island we go. Kereb, Panim. Kereb, but this time it's drawn. To be hanging loose. Maybe he was drunk as a skunk on his horse, and then you'd strip him naked, throw him over the wall, and people would just think, oh, it was the Egyptians killed that guy, and you wouldn't even, this isn't CSI, you don't know what's, Ki. Mipne or mifne. Mifne. Nifne? I don't think I'm... Bolt. So look at that. Eam and olt look very similar, except this is a curve. Eam has a yod there. Naradu. Nadi. So think about how you're going to teach your children. You don't lie to them. And you killed a man named Laban, which is white. You killed a big white man. It's going to be very important because half of your children are going to be mixed color, and you're going to talk about having a white heart to all of them, and how you killed a white man because he was bad. And the outward appearance, Samuel 16:7, that would all come into play. Milkama. So I think these are just markers like idea over. I don't know what those are. Within a year, according to the years of hireling, all the glory of Kedar shall fail. Shana Shakir Kala. That flows well. Kol. So now we have Kala Kol Kabol. Kedar Kala. I don't know what Kedar means. The dark ones. The ones with the dark hearts shall fall. So supposedly it's the Arabs. And so then you would have to read it very carefully. So remember, Tema, I told you, was a Jewish town to the east of Shazer, of the Midian area. And it says they brought water to him that was thirsty. They prevented with their bread. They prevented with their bread him that fled. They presented. Is that supposed to be presented? Haram. So you can tell this is Shakespeare. This was prevented. Confront. To meet. To be in front of. So maybe there was some, fight at a well over water, and the Tamians approached the Carabs that were going to kill Lai and his people and intervened. Kam, which is an interesting play on words here with Kedar. So Kedar is supposed to be black. In Egyptian, Kam, Kam, is black. It's one of the words for black. So I just don't have enough information with what they're providing. So I always love going to Songs of Solomon. So I'm pretty sure that chapter, so then the question is that chapter one of the chapters Nephi includes or excludes, and was that intentionally a secret by including it or not including it? Marom. It's one of the meanings of Moroni, high place. Can you be in a high place that's defensible and have water and munitions? Yeah, I can show you on a map where it was. It's called the Waters of Mormon. Alma, Amulek, the whole story. Oh, we got waters here. So we have Maim and Marom in the same verse. We have Aman. Aman's supposed to mean shore, and it's got all this other stuff. Remember when Nafi explains what amen is? And everyone's like, of course we know what amen is. He's teaching his children. It sounds like this other word I've already taught you, but it means to seal or to bear testimony. So this is, let's grab this.
ומרומים לשכון מצדות צלעים משגאה בו. ומרומים לשכון מצדות צלעים משגאה בו. ומרומים לשכון. מרומים לשכון.
So there's definitely something going on with that word. This word right here. Moromim, on high. Yishkon, Musadat, Shalim, and I can share this place as his place of defense. Lamo, Lamo, Layman. I wonder if layman is bread. Nitan, Memaiv, Ni Amanim. What does that sound like?
מימיו נאמנים. מימיו נאמנים.
This is Alma and Abinadi. I'm just kind of skimming through here, and we have burned in fire. We got this stammering. Imagine Nafi trying to create a common language. So I think one of the things we have to do is find the original Temple of Jehovah that builded Nephi. Nafi, I think at the Waters of Mormon we'll find another one. Broad rivers and streams, wherein shall no go galley with oars, neither shall gallant ship pass thereby. Tackle, sails, great spoils divided, the lame take the prey. So what I think he did is he was that cool kid on the street. So that cool jock kid that would belittle other jocks who were belittling just normal people. He went in and he reversed the economies of the land he went to. You would have one tribe dominate and steal women and enslave another tribe. He would go in, kill the bad guys, reverse the situation. The bad guys became the slaves of the good guys. And he taught the idea, oh, you guys want to contribute? You can be the Aripanas. You'll make the bricks. And along the rivers, we'll exchange them. You'll cut the wood. You'll plant the trees. Look at the word in Latin for coconut. It's not Ari, it's Ara, the keeper of the trees. And so since I'm on this tangent, river islands. No, that can't be. It's not possible. So imagine you're Nafi and you're reading this. At some point in his life he figured it out. And he may have actually changed some of what he did after. Dry up all the herbs. Ayahuasca, tobacco, and I will make the rivers islands. River islands. Is there anywhere in the world that has river islands? So this is Agam. We got to read this one. Let's see what this. Lai, to the islands we go.
החריב הרים וגבעות וכלס בם עוביש. ושם תאי נהרות תלאים ואגמים עוביש.
So for me, lakes is mer. And I don't know if it was in there. I haven't dug into this. Acharayib. Harim. So the plural of mountain. Oh, Baot, hills. I think there's a word called Yara, which means mountain or hill, as well. Vikal, Eshbam, they're herbs. Why is this not Baim? Dry the herbs, obese. Esbama, obish. The Ish people. Ish, to dry up. Va, Sha, Shamti. Niharot. So some of these plurals are ot instead of im. Lai, im. Lai, m. Lai, lai. To the ala, lai. Ala, la, la. Alalaim. That's Lehi's. Where do you think Liahona comes from? The way to the islands is the Liahona. Vagaim, the pools. Obese. So we have this obese again. So imagine, how Joseph feels when he reads ora, ora, lia, ora, hona, hora, hona. So when I think about this, it doesn't match perfectly. And like you can say, oh, these philologists, they do it all the time. They'll say, oh, the R used to be this. It's like, go back to the Egyptian. You can figure it out. Part of it could be the left to right, right to left thing. It could have been haro, because at some point they forgot which direction they were writing at that moment. Ora, the way. If you remember, oni means the way by ship. Liahona. So Liahona's close. I don't know that I've river islands, and I'll bring the blind. So I wonder if Lai went blind at some point. I don't know, but if you're in the middle of the jungle, it can get dark at night. Trust me. Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight? So deaf may be a metaphor here, or there may be a blind and deaf. Maybe Nafi went blind at some point. Who gave Jacob for spoil, and Israel to the robbers? Set a fire. Yeah, if you read about smoke and fire. Slash and burn, they still do it in the Amazon every year. Get rid of the briars and thorns. You burn it up. It gets the kings of the jungle to move. So as long as you keep protein in the jungle and you encourage them to move, you don't have to kill them. They'll keep their own population in check. You just have to feed them, which means there's enough animals for you to eat and for the jagorete to eat. So this one's really interesting. Josiah, College of Women, killing all these people on the altars, under a tree. The sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. So this is how you would write on metal plates. It is engraven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. Whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills. This is the Asherah tree stuff. This is why Josiah did what he did. This, to me, is about the crucifixion. The sin of Judah. Salt land. Santorum. I wonder what that says. Santorum was a river island, is a river island, that the chronistas, the French chronistas that were going through that area, when they were talking to the locals, said that they trade so that Midbar is pasture. So you don't need to corral your animals if you can get them to roam free. Remember the bison. Bison were from Alaska to Florida. You don't need to have cattle in the field if you have bison in the field. I don't think Nafi saw a bison. The salt land. Melaka. So I think Zoram, who later betrayed Nafi, and I think the Z in Zoram kind of hinted that would happen was the merchant of Santorum, the salt trader in the middle of the land of Nephi. Judah's apostasy. For pass over the isles of Shitty and see and send unto Kedar. Abba Kittim. A general term for islanders of the sea. Let's get rid of Mediterranean there. So that would read very differently. Here's another one. The burden of Tyre, howl ye the ships of Tarshish. So you have wars. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I don't know what Isaiah saw. I don't know that I want to say, oh, Isaiah saw all this. I saw an N word that caught my eye. There it is. Noph. Ben Noph. Nophti. How does that read in order? Gam. B'nai. Nofva. T. Nophati. So imagine that you repositioned where the word breaks were there. And that caught my attention. So here's one of those words that follow the idea. Katkad. Katkad. You repeat it twice. Nadi. Generous, magnanimous, free, liberal. Sorry, all you conservatives. I used to be conservative. Liberty means liberal. Noble, prince. So when he would say, Ami Nadi, my people, the noble ones. What's your name when you ask all these tribes? We're called the people. Our name means people. What's your name? What's your name? Nimapatu, or whatever the Sahapatines call themselves, all the way up in eastern Washington. This is not small, this is big. Naba, to prophesy, to predict, to make self, to speak or to sing by inspiration. Nazi, the Nazarites. So now we have Nadi, Nabi, Nazi. It's a play on words. Imagine all the wordplay you can do with that. So I think I'm going to finish there. I was wanting to talk about DNA, but I never got there. This is where I went. So imagine we can collect the DNA and was it Amber Heard's shit or was it Elon Musk's? I don't know if it's Mahar or Marajo. It's a river island. I emailed a granddaughter of Teddy Roosevelt who studied the pottery there, and she said in one urn would be a big skeleton, a woman. So the women were living on the safe islands, and next to her was a slave girl, and she was smaller because there were two different sizes. So there's those bones. Take the DNA. Where's the DNA of the Maharo? People that have already been collected and put somewhere. They've already taken these urns away. In Peru, an Incan girl in a woven basket. I think they've already taken her DNA, but I'm not sure. She had antibiotics in her system. She died when she was 17. She was kind of deformed or something. And she was so pumped with antibiotics. What? You don't need spray drying pharmaceuticals to create antibiotics? How about King James, Queen Anne of Denmark? The firstborn son of Queen Anne was likely my ancestor, not King James's son. How about everyone at the Abbey and in the royal palaces? How about all the Pope relics? How about the DNA of Galileo and Einstein? How about the DNA of the clay of all these pottery shards in America? Could you identify that this clay pot came from a place 1,000 miles away along the rivers that wasn't local? That's the Aripuana. All these giants in the 1900s that were in the New York Times and the Smithsonian were collecting the bones. Where are all of those? Times and Seasons. Joseph Smith was editor. He probably didn't do anything with it, but they noted in the Times and Seasons when Joseph Smith was alive, mummies were found in the caves of Lexington, Kentucky, and they've since sealed up the caves, and all sorts of conspiracy theories. So part of the geography problem that a lot of the Mormons that try to do geography have is they forget Noah left here and went there, I think simultaneously. Mahanrai left there and came here. You're playing capture the flag. You want to maintain your homeland, America. You're going on the offensive. That was Noah's job. They got all the righteous off the earth, right? Noah and Enoch, and they did that. They got them out of here. And now you're going on the offensive. And then Nafi comes in to the south of that same land. So when I'm making this picture with my arm that north, I think they came in through the Great Lakes, or through the Northeast Seaway there, St. Lawrence Passage. I think that's where they were. I think Nafi came and dominated the South during his life. By 200 years later, they were dominating the Caribbean. At some point, they dominated all the way to Tonga. They met Zarahemla up in the American model. They dominated everywhere a river would go. They probably discovered the Lewis and Clark Passage. They understood that there wasn't a way to get over there. They probably did exactly what Lewis and Clark did, is got all the way over there. And then Haygoth sent a bunch of people up there on the ocean side. The sandbar of the so-called Columbia River makes it hard to get through. But if you're ship-going people and you know how to do it, and you get through, and then like the Madeiras of South America, you cover it up. That's one of the safest places to be. And what's interesting, it seems like they liked the French. Look at the language and the sound of the French. That might be a good marker. The French, when they came to America, would try to learn from the Indians and live with them, not change them. That's the true form of being God's vine. You go in and you live with the people. You offer them food and shade, and you learn from them, and you respect them as a tree. You're just the vine. The divine vine. That is the role of the Adamic line. Noah, Enosh. They saved the peoples of America. They went on the offensive. You're playing capture the flag. And so when you're looking at some of this archaeology, like the stuff that looked like Egypt, that got buried in Mississippi Break, whatever that place was. You've got the artifacts out of the Grand Canyon. You got some of the stories of what the Hopis told of the early peoples. All of that was the the first age, the age of Adam to Noah, the first 10 patriarchs. I think Enosh was the 10th patriarch, and then Noah had a different job. And it wasn't 8 people. It's however many people fit on the boat. They do the whole 8 thing because there was some connection to something said in Hebrews, that they took literally based on the interpretations of Hebrews. Hebrews was possibly making commentary on this is what we think we know. Melchizedek, a lot of scholars have talked about that with the Melchizedek end of days thing. I just read one to start today about, we're all living semen in the scrotum of Abraham. And I try that hat on. So it could be ridiculous. It could be true. The point is you don't just swallow everything whole. If you're going to swallow the number 8 whole, then you've got to swallow it all. You can't just swallow some of the semen. If you're going to swallow it, you better swallow it all. Semen. Look it up in Hebrew. It's the anointed oil. Seven is the God oath. Is the oath of the earth. You have to answer the oath of the earth. Then you get to 8. 8 is the God oath. Sem, Shem, Shabbat. All of these numbers about 7. You don't go to the temple until the 8th day. You answer the earth for 7 days. On the 8th day, you're in the temple. If you have a son on the 40th day, look at your hand. 5 times 8, 40 days. You can count that with your hands. Then you are clean and you present your son at the temple. If it's a girl, 8 times 10, you present at the temple. It's always been 8. 3.14159265358 It was 8, and then it was 9, and then after it was 7. 9 to 7, 9 minus 2, we lost 2. Who did we lose? Adam and Eve. The fall. 7, the Lord of the earth, the Baal, the Belial, the wicked one. And we've branded 7 everywhere. 3.159265358 I don't know anymore. I actually do. It's 433, and then I don't know anymore. Shalom and aloha.